All right, everybody, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about color lock siding. So this is a product that was put on a lot of nice homes in the 90s and 2000s. Especially a lot of the homes in the Thornbrook area have this color lock siding. And I wanted to caution you guys about maintenance. The problem with color lock siding is the paint tends to fail on the bottom edge of the lap. Water seeps back onto this bottom edge. It causes the paint to come loose. Then water soaks into that bottom edge and causes the siding to spread out and delaminate. It's pretty easy to tell if you have color lock siding because they have these metal seam strips, is what I call them. They're the little metal strips that go where the butt joints are. And this is where your failure always starts. Water gets in here behind these seam strips. It seeps down and it gets into these sides of the siding, and the water starts to make it spread out and get fat and delaminate. And then it also continues to happen in areas where there aren't seam strips, but your failure will always begin at the seam strips. And we have a specific method for restoring color lock siding that we've been using for years. Another example, you'll find rotten areas over the doors pretty often. A lot of times with color lock. See this bottom piece of siding here? That's a piece of hardy siding they replaced the bottom lap of their color lock siding with hardy siding because it had completely rotted and gone to nothing. So our process for this is we will sand and scrape the bottom edges of all of these laps because we need to get all of this loose paint off. Because if we put new product on top of this loose paint, it will just come off with the old paint. So we sand the bottom edges of all these laps on the entire home. And once that's done, we will apply an oil-based primer by brush, and we will work that oil-based primer into these bottom edges here. So we're going to work that paint in with our brush and push it up into all those cracks and all that swelling so that it seals it up really good. What we will also do is we will caulk in the sides of all of these metal seam strips. You can see the last painter did not do that, so that water cannot penetrate inside there and get into these edges. And we'll also caulk the bottom of the seam strip so that this whole area is completely sealed with a solvent-based caulk so water cannot penetrate and cause delamination. And after that, we apply 2 coats of paint, a very high quality acrylic house paint, and seal the rest of the surfaces up with that. So we do a pressure wash, we sand and scrape all the bottom edges, we hand brush oil-based primer into all these bottom edges, then we caulk all of the joints and all the corners. See this? All this gets flaked off, scraped off, sanded off. We remove all that loose paint. If you put paint over the top of that, it's just going to continue to fail. After we caulk in all the joints, we'll also caulk in all the joints around the windows. Seal all those cracks up so water doesn't get in and penetrate. And then once all that prep work is done, we'll apply 2 coats by brush of a very high quality acrylic paint, sealing the rest of the surfaces up. The sanding of the bottom edges of all these laps and the brushing of primer on the bottom edges of all these laps is a pretty time-consuming process. But you'll find that the maintenance of this siding will be a lot more costly if it's not done properly, because you'll have failure in just a matter of a couple, 3 years if those steps aren't taken. which I find that most painting contractors don't take those additional steps because they're trying to keep the price down so they can win the work. Our concern is if we win the work, we want to make sure that we give you a paint job that's going to hold up and last 7 to 10 years. So we go the extra mile and we make sure that we have the money in the budget to prep and paint this properly so that you don't have to redo it in 3 to 5 years. And once your siding gets to this point, you cannot put off your paint maintenance because it will deteriorate rapidly once it gets to this point. So if you've got color lock siding on your house, you can tell that you have it. If those metal strips are at the butt joints, go out and give your home a little inspection. Look underneath at the bottom laps if you see them peeling, starting to spread out and delaminate. You know that you are in serious need of a paint job, because if you don't, it will deteriorate rapidly and you will find yourself spending 3 to 4 times as much replacing your siding as you would to just paint and maintain it before it gets to this level. Give Garrett Painting a call if you would like an exterior inspection.